Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Christine Metter? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing by this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoy this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Christine Metter lived in Beechwood, Ohio, which is just east of Cleveland. For several years, she was married to a man named David Metter. They had 4 daughters together. In January 2009, Christine and David separated. By this time, the family had moved away from Ohio. Christine returned to Ohio after the separation. Sharing custody of the daughters was a struggle for Christine and David. Eventually, David discovered that one of his daughters had missed 30 days of school while under Christine's care. He pursued custody of his daughter and was victorious. David also started the process of gaining custody of his other 3 daughters. By this time, he was remarried and living in Georgia. Tensions were high between Christine and David. Before moving to the timeline of the crime, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Factor. Too busy this fall to cook, but want to make sure you're eating well? With Factor, skip the chopping, preparation, and cleaning up, as well as the extra trip to the grocery store, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy. Factor helps you avoid takeout and ordering in with delicious and nutritious, no-nonsense food that's ready quickly. Factor's chef-prepared meals make it easy to eat well, so you never have to opt for something that isn't good for you. Factor is my go-to solution for dinner after a long day of researching, analyzing, and recording. Factor helps me to stay efficient and to avoid wasting time on cooking or going to the grocery store. Head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code DrGrande50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. That's 50% off your first Factor box at Factor75.com, DrGrande50. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. Christine Metter had gone to high school with a man named Patrick Sabo. He was a former Army Ranger. After about 20 years of not talking, they reconnected on Facebook. Christine and Patrick talked about the challenges they had with their former spouses. On May 27, 2011, when Christine was communicating with Patrick on Facebook Messenger, she mentioned specific problems she was having with her ex-husband, David Metter. Patrick jokingly wrote a message telling Christine to save her money and hire a hitman. He followed this with the acronym LMAO, which only emphasized how he was not being serious. Christine replied LOL, and their conversation ended. About 3 or 4 hours later, Christine contacted Patrick on Facebook and asked him to call her using Skype. On the call, Christine asked Patrick if she would have dinner with her father. Christine's father was a 76-year-old retired police officer named Al Zambori. He lived with Christine. He had been married for over 50 years, but his wife died in 2009. Patrick agreed to meet with Christine's father. Al Zambori drove to Patrick's apartment and picked him up. In the vehicle, Al told Patrick how he had suffered a stroke and could no longer effectively aim a firearm. He suggested that if he could aim straight, he would have shot and killed the blank himself. He was referring to David Metter. Al showed Patrick how his hand was shaking to emphasize how he could no longer handle a gun. Patrick was somewhat alarmed and thought that Al incorrectly believed the hitman comment on Facebook was serious. After the man arrived at the restaurant in Eastlake, Ohio, Christine's father told Patrick that he wanted David Metter shot and killed. Al Zambori offered Patrick $50,000 to carry out the homicide and was prepared to give him $2,000 as a down payment immediately. The rest of the money would come from David Metter's $1.5 million life insurance policy. Al gave Patrick David's photograph and his address in Georgia. Patrick had no interest in being a hitman. As soon as he arrived back at his apartment, he contacted the police. Investigators worked out a plan to catch Christine and Al. A detective named Christopher Bowersock would go undercover as a hitman named Vinny. At the request of the police, Patrick called Christine and told her that Vinny would be better suited for the job. On May 30, 2011, Patrick contacted Christine again. The police were recording the conversation. Following police instructions, Patrick asked Christine if she recalled the guy he had discussed previously. Christine said that she did. He also asked her about whether there was a double indemnity clause on the life insurance policy. Christine said that she would look into it and have her father talk with Patrick later. The next day, May 31, a meeting was arranged between Patrick, Christine's father Al, and the detective who was playing the part of Vinny, the hitman. Al Zamburi gave the detective an envelope containing $3,000. Investigators wanted to have evidence available for the next meeting to convince the alleged conspirators that David Metter was actually dead. They wanted Christine and her father to believe that the hit had been carried out. David was contacted and asked to supply photographs of himself, which the police then clumsily modified to make it look like David had been shot in the head. The image wasn't convincing, but the police were running out of time. On June 3, 2011, Christine, her father, and the detective had a meeting. The detective was still playing the part of Vinny the hitman. Vinny showed Christine and her father the photograph of David and said, quote, "I shot him in the head like you guys wanted me to do," unquote. Vinny requested a $100,000 fee from the $1.5 million life insurance policy that David had. He asked, "When does this policy come due?" Al Zamburi replied, "Well, after they find him." Christine did not look at the modified photograph, but she did ask, "Did it look like an accident?" When the meeting was over, the police arrested both Christine and her father and charged them with conspiracy to commit aggravated murder. Christine went to trial and was found guilty. She was sentenced to the maximum of 10 years in prison and released in 2021. Al Zamburi took a plea deal and received 9 years of incarceration. He was able to get away with only serving 5 years because he died in prison. The judge explained why he gave Christine the maximum sentence of 10 years. There were several reasons: her lack of remorse, the extreme mental health distress she caused to her ex-husband and to her daughters, the involvement of her father in the scheme, blaming her father, and her failure to stop the scheme at any point along the way. The judge believed that Christine wanted revenge on David Metter because he was awarded custody of one of their daughters and was pursuing custody of the other 3. Now moving to my analysis. There isn't much debate about the guilt of Al Zamburi. He engaged in a lot of incriminating behavior, like arranging to murder David, handing Vinny money, and telling Vinny to have fun carrying out the murder. The police could have arrested Al earlier than they actually did. The problem was their case against Christine. This brings me to the question: was Christine Metter actually guilty of conspiracy to commit aggravated murder? Let's take a look at the evidence both for and against the idea that she was guilty, starting with the inculpatory factors. Christine sent a cryptic message to Patrick just a few hours after he jokingly talked about hiring a hitman to kill her ex-husband. She arranged a meeting between her father and Patrick without telling Patrick what the meeting was about. Why would the nature of the meeting have to be a secret? During subsequent communication with Patrick, Christine seemed to recognize that they were talking about hiring a guy and that insurance money was involved. During the final meeting with Vinny the hitman, Christine asked if her ex-husband's death looked like an accident. It seems clear that she believed that David was dead and she was interacting with the man who killed him. Moving to the exculpatory factors, at one point, Christine allegedly expressed concern about moving forward with the conspiracy. Maybe she was trying to back out. Christine would later claim that she attended the final meeting because she was afraid of Vinny. This makes sense. Vinny, after all, was supposed to be a hitman. Christine's father was much more active in the conspiracy than Christine. It is conceivable that Al did everything on his own. He saw the Facebook message, and this gave him the idea to have someone kill his daughter's ex-husband. A mental health professional testified on behalf of Christine Metter. He diagnosed her with personality disorder not otherwise specified with histrionic and dependent traits. She did not qualify for a diagnosis of either histrionic or dependent personality disorder. The clinician argued that Christine was susceptible to influence, attracted to drama, and interpersonally naive. She did not possess antisocial personality characteristics, rather had a personality structure consistent with being vulnerable to influence, especially when under stress. Maybe Christine's father came up with this idea to hire a hitman, and Christine was too afraid and dependent on him to say no. When considering all the evidence, do I think that Christine Metter was guilty? Yes, I believe she was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. She wanted her ex-husband to be dead, and she wanted someone else to kill him. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Christine was lively, enthusiastic, charismatic, talkative, naive, and suggestible. These are all histrionic personality features. Christine was dependent on her father and on her daughters. This behavior is consistent with having dependent personality features. When David was awarded custody of one daughter, and it was clear he was trying to get custody of the other three, Christine couldn't handle it. She could not risk losing her support. Due to Christine being so talkative, she was always complaining to her father about her ex-husband David. Her father became convinced that David was a bad guy. At her trial, Christine accused David of all types of offenses, like striking her in the stomach with his knee, hitting her in the head, and shoving her through a screen door. David denied all these claims. It stands to reason that Christine also made these allegations about David to her father. At some point, Alzamburi became tired of hearing his daughter complain. He was open to some type of solution to stop Christine from constantly rambling about her feelings. In addition, Christine's father felt obligated to take care of Christine, especially after his wife's recent death. He may have felt as though Christine was the only important person he had left in his life. When Patrick made the joking comment about a hitman, Christine came to believe that he was serious because she was suggestible. People with histrionic personality features tend to believe relationships are more intimate than they actually are. Christine probably thought of Patrick as a close friend when he wasn't. She did not have the insight to recognize the true nature of their relationship. Their relationship had not reached the hitman level of closeness. Christine went to her father with the idea of hiring a hitman and convinced him to execute the plan for her. A person who is naive like Christine can still be manipulative, although they're not usually good at it. It's possible that Christine's father was even more naive than she was. He was an easy target. This shared characteristic also allowed them to be manipulated by the comically obvious tactics of the police. Amazingly, Christine's father couldn't see through the tactics, even though he was once a police officer. Now moving to my final thoughts. Christine and her father were not the only ones involved in a conspiracy. In a sense, many of Christine's personality traits conspired against her. For example, suggestibility, being talkative, misinterpreting the nature of relationships, being dependent, and having a lack of insight. When these traits combined with her self-centeredness, callousness, and sense of entitlement, they put her on a road to disaster. Christine's father was not able to recognize the maladaptive personality traits in his daughter. This led to his downfall. People who cannot identify these destructive characteristics often fall victim to them. Those are my thoughts on the case of Christine Metter. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.